Picture this. It's 1888. Baseball, America's game, is about to go on the most incredible road trip you've ever heard of. Seriously, this is a forgotten piece of history, a wild 6 months journey around the world that was all about showing everyone what America was made of. And who was the guy crazy enough to dream this up? That would be Albert G. Spalding. He was a superstar pitcher who became a kind of P.T. Barnum for sports. And his personal motto, right here, pretty much tells you everything you need to know about him. This was a man with some serious ambition. So that's the million-dollar question, right? Why on earth would you pack up 24 of the best baseball players in the country and drag them to see the pyramids and the Eiffel Tower and the Australian outback? Was it about patriotism? Was it about making money? Or was there something else going on? To figure that out, you really have to understand the man, Albert Spalding, and just how unbelievably bold his plan was. He wanted to build a baseball empire that spanned the entire globe. See, Spalding wasn't just some businessman in a suit. Back in the 1870s, he was the guy to beat on the mound. We're talking over 200 wins in just 5 seasons. But he saw a bigger picture. He borrowed $800 from his mom to start a little sporting goods company, and he turned it into a powerhouse. He was a showman who got that baseball wasn't just a sport, it was an amazing product. Now, you got to remember, the baseball they were selling to the world was, well, it was a different animal. Pitchers threw underhand. It took 9 balls for a walk. And gloves? Yeah, not really a thing for most players. This was a tough, rugged, bare-knuckled version of the game. And here's the absolute genius of the plan. It was a 2-for-1 deal. On one hand, you have the patriotic mission, show the world that baseball is the great American sport. But at the same time, Spalding was creating customers. Think about it. If you get people playing baseball all over the world, who are they going to buy their bats and balls from? It was brilliant. Of course, a trip this epic needs a cast of characters to match. And oh boy, the group he put together was something else. Leading the 2 teams were a couple of the biggest stars of the era. You had Cap Anson, the tough-as-nails, superstar captain of Spalding's own Chicago team, probably the most famous player in America at the time, and his rival? John Montgomery Ward. He was the captain of the All-Americas team, and he was the total opposite of Anson. Smart, handsome, and even a lawyer who'd gone to Columbia. And the rest of the crew, just as interesting. You had a guy nicknamed the Prankster, James Fogarty, who was always pulling stunts. There was Ed Cannonball Crane, a pitcher with a rocket arm who also loved to drink. And then, get this, Spalding's own 62-year-old mother, Harriet, decided to come along for the ride. Her friends told her she was nuts, but she went anyway. Okay, so let's get on the road with them. We're going to follow this journey across the globe because the stories they brought back, they're just legendary. I mean, just look at this itinerary. The logistics alone are insane. They started in Chicago, played their way across the US, then sailed to Hawaii, New Zealand, and all over Australia. After that, it was off to places like Ceylon, that's Sri Lanka today, and Egypt before hitting Italy, France, and Great Britain. What a trip! You can imagine, all that travel time led to some serious shenanigans. These guys were basically a traveling circus. On the train ride across America, they'd sneak around at night and paint each other's faces with soot from the lamps. One poor guy, Tom Brown, woke up to find a giant block of melting ice in his bed. But maybe the most unbelievable stop was in Egypt. Spalding actually arranged for them to play a baseball game in the sand right there next to the Great Pyramids. They rode in on camels in full uniform and played a real game with the Sphinx just watching. You can't make this stuff up. Now, not everyone was impressed. When they got to England, the home of cricket, the local press was confused. One paper called it a rum game, which is old-timey talk for weird game. But Spalding, the master promoter, managed to get the Prince of Wales to come watch a game, which was a huge publicity win. So, after 6 months of circling the globe, they finally returned home in the spring of 1889, and the welcome they received was incredible. They weren't just seen as athletes anymore. They were treated like American heroes, like pioneers. And this pretty much says it all. They threw a massive party for them at Delmonico's, which was the fanciest restaurant in New York. And look at the menu. It was served in 9 innings, with dishes named after the teams and the places they'd been. This was a welcome fit for kings. The special guest at that dinner was none other than Mark Twain. And he stood up and gave this incredible speech, calling baseball the symbol of the raging, tearing, booming 19th century. He totally nailed the feeling in the country at that time, this massive sense of pride and energy. So the tour was a massive success, a total home run for Spalding and the players. But the real legacy, what happened next, is actually a bit more complicated. First things first, after all those games, who actually won? The rivalry between the two captains, Anson and Ward, was playing out on the field the whole time. And as you can see, in the end, John Ward's All-American team just edged out Anson's Chicago club 29 wins to 23.
And what about the cost? Spalding funded this entire massive undertaking out of his own pocket. We're talking at least $30,000, which is almost $1 million in today's money. It was a huge personal gamble, but it paid off big time, cementing his legacy as a true visionary.
But here's the great twist in the story. While Spalding was successfully making baseball an international symbol of America, the team owners back home were trying to squeeze the players with new, unfair contracts. So this trip, this amazing symbol of unity, actually helped spark the very first major player revolts in sports history. It lit the fuse on that classic conflict between money and power between players and owners that is still such a huge part of the game today.